Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Tornado Talk. Inside look at Brevard College athletics. We're here at Dugan's Pub every Monday night during the academic season and have an exciting show on deck for you tonight. We'll be talking some mountain biking as the Tornadoes are coming off a big result in Cleveland, Georgia. We'll hear from mountain biking student athletes Nicole Rusden and Jason Marquardt. We'll talk some women's soccer with student athletes Rebecca Rojas and Erica Zuffrey. We'll check in with head football coach Bill Kyatt, and we'll talk to football student athletes Quentin Jackson and Jamario Parks. Do want to thank all of our sponsors: Arby's, Jets Pizza, Holiday Inn Express, Hampton Inn, Ingles, Mission Sports Medicine, Comporium, Pepsi, and the home of Tornado Talk, Dugan's Pub. Well, to catch you up since we saw you last, do want to start with the football news. The Tornadoes were all teed up for their season opener, a contest against Apprentice School this past Saturday at Brevard Memorial Stadium. And the game, after lengthy lightning delays spanning the course of about 3 hours, was declared a no contest early Sunday morning after an agreement between the two schools' athletic directors. The USA South Conference was involved as well in some of that ruling, and also ultimately the NCAA rulebook declaring the game a no contest with player safety at the forefront of the decision. So the result doesn't count, the stats don't count. It's like it didn't happen. We'll talk with head coach Bill Kyatt all about it. Certainly some things were learned in that matchup against Apprentice, but bottom line is a no contest, so the Tornadoes will go into their next game, which is this weekend versus Christopher Newport University, with a 0-0 record, and that will be, for all practical purposes, the Tornadoes' season opener this Saturday, September 21st. That's 7 p.m. at Brevard Memorial Stadium. And by the way, there's a big promotion going on where all fans are encouraged to wear the color white. The Tornadoes uniforms will be white as well, and a whiteout type effect happening at Brevard Memorial Stadium this Saturday, 7 p.m. The first 500 fans receive a white Brevard College Tornadoes t-shirt, so get there early this Saturday, 7 p.m., Tornadoes versus Christopher Newport University. Women's soccer, we'll be talking to a couple of those student athletes later in the show. They fell 2-1 versus North Carolina Wesleyan last Wednesday. This was a game that was added to the schedule in Winston-Salem. Freshman Kendall Cochran with her first career regular season goal, a score in the 81st minute on a Abby Petrosky corner kick for the assist. And then a 1-1 tie this past weekend in Buena Vista, Virginia, the second tie score for the Tornadoes this season. It's a lot of minutes of tied score there. And we'll talk to the goalkeeper as well as one of those key defenders a little later in the show. But the bottom line, a 1-1 tie at Southern Virginia. And then tomorrow, the Tornadoes will be in action versus Salem. That's right here on the campus of Brevard College at Ives Lamel Family Field. There's also a big Western North Carolina area alumni meetup as part of that event. That will get going at 5:30, and then the alumni are welcome to hang around, watch the Tornadoes in action, and just a tremendous event that the Brevard College Alumni Association is putting on. Be sure to check out the Brevard College Alumni Association Facebook page, and you can RSVP to that event. If you're not able to get your RSVP in, no big deal, they tell me. Just come on out and check out the Tornadoes at Ives Lamel Family Field tomorrow night. Game time is 7 p.m. Men's soccer, similar to football, results in a no contest after Lightning at Ives Lamel Family Field in the matchup against Covenant this past Saturday. That match will be rescheduled. I know the two schools are talking about some potential dates, so that match will be rescheduled, but a no contest, just like football for men's soccer. And now the Tornadoes men's soccer team heads on the road, 4 straight away matches. A trip to Demorest, Georgia tomorrow at Piedmont, that's on Tuesday. A trip to Fayetteville, North Carolina at Methodist, a trip to Rocky Mount, North Carolina at North Carolina Wesleyan, and also a trip to LaGrange, Georgia for a matchup against USA South Conference rival LaGrange. So 4 straight away matches for the Tornadoes men's soccer team. Volleyball traveled for a tri-match hosted by Pfeiffer. Fell in both of those matches. They'll be on the road again this weekend, so the road warrior mentality will continue for the Tornado volleyball team. Friday, September 20th, they'll be in Greensboro for a matchup against Guilford, and then a tri-match in Lynchburg, Virginia this Saturday with a matchup against Greensboro. That'll be a neutral site match, and then a matchup at Randolph. Cross country. Gavin Morgan has been making headlines for the Brevard College cross-country team. This sophomore runner who earlier this season won USA South Runner of the Week honors set a new personal record for the 8-kilometer race with a time of 28 minutes flat, pacing the Tornadoes and giving Morgan a 13th place finish at a very competitive field at Berea College in Berea, Kentucky. The cross-country team is off this coming weekend, but will be back in action at the Queen City Invitational Friday, September 27th. And head cross-country and track and field coach Daryl Patrick, along with Gavin Morgan, will be guests on next week's show here at Tornado Talk. And last but not least, men's and women's tennis playing the fall portion of their schedule. They opened their season at home, at least. The women's team had already played in Virginia in an event, but both the men's and women's teams played at home at the McCoy Tennis Complex versus Piedmont. The big highlight was a win in #1 women's singles by Samantha Seppi. The Tornadoes tennis program, the men's and women's teams will be back in action this weekend in Weiss, Virginia for a matchup at Virginia Weiss. And that brings us to the Brevard College cycling program. And do we ever have a recap for you, as joined now by Jason Marquardt, member of that Brevard College cycling team and coming off a big weekend in the mountain bikes. Jason, thanks for joining the show.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Well, before I bring you into the mix, I do want to review all these great results from the weekend, because there's a lot to cover here and a lot of success for the Tornadoes. So let me just run through them first, and then we'll break it down a little bit, okay?
Awesome, thank you.
So Cleveland, Georgia, the site of the MTB Rock and Roll Showdown hosted by Kennesaw State and Truett McConnell over the weekend. And the Tornadoes were just dominant, is the word that comes to mind. In men's A cross country, a podium sweep. First place, Carson Beckett. Second place, Tyler Orshell. Third place, Tyler Clark. In men's A short track cross country, another podium sweep. In other words, you look at the podium, they're rewarding first, second, third trophies, all 3 in Brevard College Tornado uniforms, same 3. Carson Beckett, Tyler Orshell, and Tyler Clark. Men's B cross country, third place finish for Dalton Collins, another podium. Women's A cross country, great finish for Emma Schwab, 7th place. Men's B short track cross country, another first place win for Dalton Collins. Women's B short track cross country, Eliza Tobias with her first win as a collegiate racer, winning short track. And that brings me to 2 more before I get to you, Jason. Men's B dual slalom, Max Boyk wins that event, also his first collegiate win, I believe. Nicole Rusden finishes in 4th place in women's A downhill. And then you, Jason Marquette, the man on my left, 4th place in men's C cross country, and then your first win as a collegiate mountain biker, first place in men's C short track cross country. Before we break down your individual performance and your win, congratulations on that, Jason. As a whole, and as far as the team goes, how awesome was that this past weekend?
It was really cool to be surrounded by such a really good group of high quality athletes, and then to kind of see them all perform in their respective disciplines. And then everything all the hard work paid off this weekend. It was really cool to see that.
Outstanding. And then your events in particular, in the way the schedule worked, and correct me if I'm wrong, the cross-country race was on Saturday, and then the short track cross-country on Sunday.
Correct.
You finished 4th in cross-country on Saturday, win on Sunday. Can you kind of break down your particular race and how that went for you both days?
Sure. So going into the cross country Saturday, I had a really great start, really great first lap, and kind of going into my second lap, the course was quite rocky. So I actually ended up getting a flat tire going to that second. Cost me quite a bit of time repairing that, and then spent most of the rest of my race chasing back for fourth, which I was pretty happy with that after a pretty dramatic setback. And then going into Sunday, again, just tried to keep things steady and trying to be the smartest guy out there. And in the last lap, I was able to make an attack and kind of move from second to first and eventually take the win.
Very good. Now, can you explain to the audience just the basic difference between the cross-country race and the short-track cross-country race?
Sure. So short track is kind of in excess of like an hour. Usually it's between like an hour and 2 hour race, whereas short track is anywhere between like 20 and 40 minutes of a race.
And with that being said, if the longer of the two races is on Saturday, then you have to race again on Sunday. You know, what do you do between the end of that cross-country race on Saturday and then the race on Sunday to make sure your body's recovered?
A lot of it kind of just goes into like getting a lot of rest and eating really well, making sure you're stretching and then making sure you're warming up and cooling down properly to make sure that you're ready to go for both days.
Very good. Well, we talked a little bit before the show, Jason, and, you know, what's fascinating to me about collegiate cycling, and, you know, right now we're in the mountain bike season, is the team aspect of it.
Yeah.
And many of you members of the Brevard College cycling program have sort of individual careers going on either in your past or even in, you know, the present moment where you're racing as an individual. But for these collegiate races, it's really a team event. Can you talk a little bit about the team dynamic and maybe how that's different from what you've experienced in the past racing as an individual?
Sure. So kind of an individual performance, you kind of show up, do your own thing, and then that's that. But when you're kind of part of a team, if you're lucky enough to have a teammate in with your race, you can actually use that teammate to your advantage to either slow down the race or speed up the race to whatever you're trying to do that day. And that's totally different than when you're racing as like a privateer and you're kind of doing your own thing.
Sure. And when it comes to kind of supporting your other teammates, you know, for instance, something significant had to happen for Carson to finish first, Tyler second, and Tyler Clark third in both of those events. What are you all doing as teammates to perhaps support them?
I think the biggest thing that we're kind of doing there is making sure that they're set up during their race, whether that be with food, water, or nutrition, and then making sure
By the way, we went through like all the results for the team. Congratulations to all of you guys, for having such a big weekend, and I know it's a big part.
Just do my thing. Where you're going, because, you know, like you said, I mean, a crash is inevitable, I guess, in a lot of circumstances. Yeah. So I'm glad you look and seem healthy. You know, I'm glad you made it out of that. All right. Well, this weekend coming up is another
a little bit of intensity, but just a whole lot of rest and recovery.
Similar for me. Today I had an off day, and then get a little bit more high intensity on Wednesday, Thursday, and an easy day Friday before the race to tune out.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Nicole, you know, one thing I couldn't help but notice, I talked to the coaches a little bit about this last week, was the amount of female racers on this year's roster. You know, the numbers are much bigger, you know. Last year, I remember, you know, a lot of times during the season, there was maybe 3 of you know.
Yeah.
And now, you know, we've doubled, if not tripled, that number in terms of, you know, racers on the women's side of things. How has that been for you as a member of the Tornadoes to have that many more, you know, females in the mix?
It's great. A bunch of us will get out for a group ride, and it's cool to be out with girls riding on mountain bikes.
Very good. And before I let you go, I do want the audience to get to know a little bit more about you all and your background and kind of your journey here to Brevard College. And Jason, we'll start with you. You're from Mokina, Illinois, you know, about an hour or so south of the windy city of Chicago. And somehow you're here with me and Nicole and the rest of us at Dugan's Pub at Brevard College, racing mountain bikes and racing cyclocross as well as road racing. Your upbringing in Illinois, maybe when you started competitive bike racing, and how'd you wind up here to Brevard?
Cool. So I kind of just been riding for a really long time, but never really racing a ton. Just kind of doing a few local races here and there. And then about a year and a half ago, things really started to ramp up, and I started racing really competitively. And then through a few conversations with Brad in Cyprus, I ended up on the team going into last fall's cyclocross season. So.
Very nice, and so far so good. You enjoying it here in Brevard?
It's a fantastic team with a really great support network behind it, so I feel well taken care of.
And I'd imagine in that part of the country where you're from, there aren't mountains like that. There are here. Yeah. Can you just talk about that? You know, how cool it is to have Pisgah National Forest, DuPont State Forest, just right here at the beck and call?
Yeah, it's really cool, the fact that, you know, we can get on a bike from campus and go to Pisgah or go to DuPont and really be able to really sharpen our skills there in an environment that not a lot of students, not a lot of athletes in the world have. So I'm really thankful to be here and have that opportunity.
And Nicole, you're from Glenmore, Pennsylvania, Twin Valley High School. And similar, you know, different part of the country, you know, just like Jason, but somehow you're here at Brevard College, you know, part of the cycling program, and also, of course, a student athlete here. Can you talk about kind of your path, you know, and how it ultimately led to Brevard?
I always rode mountain bikes with my dad, and when I came down here to visit and rode the mountain bike trails here, I knew I wanted to go to school at Brevard College. It's just too amazing, the trails that we have right in our backyard.
Very nice. And in terms of the student side and the academic side, have you all declared majors?
Yeah, so I just declared as an integrated studies major between wilderness leadership, experiential ed, and exercise science. So a combination of those two.
Very good. And Nicole?
I'm environmental science with a physics and geology minor.
Wow. Tremendous majors. You know, you guys got a lot ahead of you. But I do want to wish you good luck heading into this weekend, a big event at Lees McRae, and on the path towards those national championships, October 11th through 13th at Big Bear Lake, California. I know how you athletes work. You're already focused on the next event, but I want to congratulate you one last time for a sensational weekend over there in Cleveland, Georgia for the entire team. And before I let you go, I always like doing this. If there's anybody back home or someone, you know, you want to give a shout out to, the floor is each of yours.
Cool. I really think my parents, they've been super supportive, as well as my little brother, who's one of the main people I grew up riding with and kind of pushed my skills with.
My mom watches all of you, so hi, Mom.
Very good. Well, can't do it without Mom, right?
Nope.
Thanks again for joining Tornado Talk. Great job to each of you. Good luck the rest of this week. We'll be following every step of the way.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
All right. That was Jason Marquardt and Nicole Rusden, members of that highly successful Brevard College cycling program, coming off a big weekend on the mountain bikes in Cleveland, Georgia. And we'll shift gears as those two student athletes vacate the coach's corner, and two more come on into the coach's corner here at Dugan's Pub. As as happy to be joined now by women's soccer student athletes, Erica Zuffrey and Rebecca Rojas. Ladies, thanks for joining the program.
Thanks for having us.
Well, very excited to have each of you on the show. I think it's your debut appearance on Tornado Talk, is that correct?
Yes.
Very good. Well, Erica, we'll start with you. Senior. There's not many seniors on this year's team. You're one of them, from Charlotte, North Carolina. I know it's early in your senior season, but, I like getting sentimental a little bit, Can you talk about sort of your career and what it means to, now be capping it off with your senior season?
Yeah, I came in here freshman year, had a pretty bad injury. I didn't really get to play. And I've just been I kind of worked back up from that. So it's been awesome to have this team surrounding me with all this positive energy. And I've really enjoyed watching the team grow throughout the past 3 years. And I think this year, we're a pretty young team, but I'm really excited to see how much we grow. So.
And Rebecca, junior goalkeeper, you're from California. Let's start with that. You're from California. I haven't met too many Brevard College Tornadoes from the state of California. You're one of the few of them. How did you find Brevard College?
So I always say I found Brevard College through the power of the internet. And so my dad helped me create some clips that we put on the internet, and through a recruiting website, our past assistant coach found me and we got in contact, and I came out here for a visit, and I absolutely loved the atmosphere, I loved the environment, I loved the culture, and fell in love.
Very good. Well, we're glad you found Brevard and that Brevard found you, and you've had a great year so far. You earned the USA South Women's Soccer Defensive Player of the Week early in the season. That was after a 0-0 tie in the opener, if you guys remember that one, versus Emory and Henry. And when I see the numbers 0-0, and I'm talking to a goalkeeper and a defender, y'all are the ones kind of responsible for blanking the opponent for that many minutes. 110 minutes of shutout soccer. Let's talk about that. Game goes into overtime. You got to preserve the shutout. What does that feel like, as far as digging deep in those overtime periods?
So, we have 10 minutes, our initial half, to score. And as a goalkeeper, my main concern is, one, don't let the ball in the net. And for me, my heart is racing. I know the girls on the D-line is racing. The girls up top, their concern is getting the ball in the net. And so once that 10 minutes goes by, it's like, all right, we got to do this again. And it just continues until that final whistle is blown. It's just really, our anxiety and stress is high, but we just got to work through it and keep that blank sheet.
And Erica, thoughts on that as far as that overtime period and keeping that blank sheet?
Yeah, I would say the overtime period goes by a lot faster than regular time period, and I think that we really have to dig deep, and we play with our hearts rather than with our legs at that point. So I think that our true character really shines in that overtime period, and I think that's what helped us, keep that clean sheet.
Now, I would like each of you to talk about the other, because a goalkeeper's success very much depends on the strength of her defense. And a defender's success, oftentimes also depends on, how effective the goalkeeper is behind you. Can you talk about the other, in how important that is?
Well, from a goalkeeper's perspective, my success is all, like you said, is depend on her. So our relationship and our communication has to be systematic to where it can be effective. We have to depend on one another and trust on one another to know that we're going to get that ball. I'm directing her just as much as she's directing me into what she needs from me as a goalkeeper. And so it's that segue of conversation back and forth between whether it's Erica or Emma or Leo, whoever's back there, Audrey. It's just that constant communication to make sure we're a brick wall as a whole team.
Yeah, I kind of go off that. Communication is huge because we're the last defender, but Rebecca is behind us, and she does an awesome job at making sure, hey, someone's running behind you. So that's also really important there. But also, as the four, we don't want our goalie to just kind of be one-on-one. We want to, make sure that we're there for her. We got to protect her just as much as she's going to protect us. So I think it's very mutualistic in that point.
Makes a lot of sense. And a lot of people don't realize how much of the offensive side of things begins in the back line, beginning with the goalkeeper and then, of course, the defenders. Can you guys talk about that and maybe what has been instilled in you from the coaches as far as you all generating that offense?
So I really like seeing our D play within each other and pass the ball back and forth from end to end and start plays within our midfield and going from there. And I think our defense does a really good job finding our little inserts within the middle, and then the middle distributing it back to our outside or however way they go. So I think it's imperative that our defense is strong, and it's really cool to see when our defense and our defenders start a play and it ends up in the back of the net. Makes me really proud.
Yeah, being in the back four, we can kind of see the whole entire field, so we can find those little gaps and find those through balls that most players might not be allowed the chance to see. So I think that it's vital for us to look for those open spaces, but if it's not on, we can keep the ball. Usually we don't have as much pressure as the midfield or the forward, so we have the opportunity to switch the ball and find those gaps. So
tomorrow night's a big game for you all, without a doubt, versus Salem. Before I go with kind of the special event that's happening tomorrow night out at Ives Lamel Family Field, I would like to start as far as the game itself. And I know you all have been preparing ever since this weekend's past, result for tomorrow. What have the coaches instilled in you as far as, what you all have to do tomorrow to get the W?
Well, we have to work hard. That has been our main thing. It's like we just have to grind it out, keep working, play for each other. And, I mean, we're getting closer and closer every game. So I think that if we just go the extra mile in regular time and we play like we do in overtime and regular time, I think that we can definitely get the W.
Just like Erica said, coaches really pushed working hard for the full 90 minutes and the extra 120 minutes if we need to go overtime. And work hard as a team collectively. We all have to push through those tough moments that the game offers players just in general, and we have to work together. We have to find those through passes and find the back of the net in the end of the day, because the scoreboard is what determines who wins that game. Now,
tomorrow also is the Western North Carolina alumni meetup that's happening at the women's soccer game. Alumni, you're welcome to come on out to the game and gather together. They're going to have a whole barbecue for the alumni, and some good food and companionship for that group. Now, a couple alumni specifically come to mind who I know both of you were teammates with, who are both going to be out there at Ives Lamel Family Field tomorrow. The first of which is Ashley Hughes, who's now an assistant coach for you all, and broke all sorts of records last year for the Tornadoes. And the other, who actually works with the Brevard College Alumni Association, is Megan Shina. Can you all talk about how important alumni might be for the women's soccer program, and how it's important to sort of always remember, that, what these folks did for you all as far as building the program up to where it is today?
Well, to give the viewers some context, Megan Shina and Ashley Hughes were two of our captains last year. Very important roles they played in our success in the season. And so having them, knowing that they're going to be watching our game, kind of motivates me even more to perform for them and perform at my best level, just because I respect them as players, and I still respect them as outside audience members, and I want to show up for them as well as for my teammates and my coach and my parents and all this, but specifically knowing that they're going to be watching really adds that extra, you have to show up. You have to continue performing at your best level. Just out of respect for them. The amazing, phenomenal players, and Ashley is a wonderful coach and mentor within this season. It's really nice having her the fact that she's here because she knows what it's like being on the field.
And Erica, similar thoughts on this alumni effect?
Oh yeah, we are all family, so we still have that bond, and I think having them there will only help us, only motivate us, and I think that they're also there for support as well. They know what it's like to be on that field. They know what it's like to be dead tired, you're out of energy, but you got to keep working through it. So I think having them there will just boost our energy and motivation tomorrow.
Well, if you're based here in the Western North Carolina area or just happen to be
passing through tomorrow, make sure you come on out to Ives Lamel Family Field. If you're an alum, certainly gather up for that alumni meetup, or if you're just a fan of the Tornadoes, come on out. It's certainly a great product. Now, to the classroom, I always like learning a little more as far as your studies go. Rebecca, we'll start with you. Have you chosen a major, and what's the your primary interest scholastically?
So I'm majoring in business and organizational leadership with a minor in pre-law, and I've really gotten deep into my business classes I'm in that final stretch, and I absolutely love my professors, Professor Bilski and Professor Cam Austin. They're really good professors, and they've helped me even outside the classroom tremendously.
Well done. Erica?
So I'm majoring in biology and minoring in health science, so I love science, especially biology. And I've really been enjoying going out of the classroom and really getting to know life all around us. I think that's very unique to Brevard, is we get to go out there and actually apply what we're learning in the classroom. So really been enjoying my time here, and this is actually my last semester, but I'll still be around.
So you're set to graduate in December?
Yes.
Very good. Well, congratulations on what's coming there. Now,
Thank you.
Erica, you also took the trip this summer, I believe, on a river, kind of an overnight part of the Willie program at Brevard College. Can you tell that story a little bit?
Well, I'm not really an outdoorsy type of person. I'm from Charlotte, so city girl. And I just thought, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I will never have this opportunity again. I'm going to take it. And so I signed up for it, and then I later found out that Sally signed up for it, and Hannah, two of our other teammates also signed up for it, and then 3 of the soccer boys also signed up for it. So half of the people who went on the trip were all soccer players, which I thought was really awesome. But the trip was amazing. I didn't think I was going to make it. Second day, I was super dehydrated, even though I thought I drank a lot of water. But made it through, and I got to see a lot of amazing things, made a lot of memories and friends, especially with John Buford, who's head of the Willie department, and Dr. Castellas. Or we had also trail names, so Dr. Castellas was Jedi, and John Buford, who's this huge Marine guy, totally terrifying, was, I think, Princess. I think that's what we decided on. He's a really nice guy, really big softy once you get to know him. But
very nice. Well, awesome. If that many soccer players made the trip, and I know you've got to pack light and very efficiently when you're going on these sort of camping trips, but did anyone bring a soccer ball or maybe even a hacky sack?
Well, funny story, actually. While we were going down the river, there were tons of soccer balls in the river that people just, threw in there, left in there. So we would take one every time, and we eventually had 4 or 5 soccer balls.
So you could do a little juggling amongst each other?
We would kick around, and there was also a hacky sack at one point. So we definitely had a little bit of soccer time during our trip. So.
Nice. Very good. Well, both of you have very nicely mentioned some professors at Brevard College, but I want to give you the same opportunity I gave our last guest, which is to say hi to anybody back home or anybody else you might want to just give a shout out to.
Well, I want to give a shout out to my mom and my dad for watching, and they support me through everything I do, and so love you guys.
Yeah, I'll also give a shout out to my mom and dad. My dad recently went to Algeria, so I'm not sure if he's watching this right now, but I know my mom is, so hey, Mom.
Oh.
Very good. Well, once again, folks, head on out, see these tremendous Brevard College Tornado student athletes in action. It's a great product, a lot of fun to watch the women's soccer team in action, and it's a big one tomorrow night versus Salem. Best of luck, ladies, against Salem tomorrow. Great job on the show tonight, and congrats and good luck on your continued success.
Thank you.
All right, that was Rebecca Rojas and Erica Zuffrey, goalkeeper and key defender for that Brevard College women's soccer team. And those 2 student athletes will be in action along with the Tornadoes against Salem tomorrow night, Ives Lamel Family Field. As happy to be joined now, as we are every Monday night during the football season, by head coach Bill Kyatt. Coach, thanks for joining the show.
Thanks for having me, Phil. Good to see you again.
Well, probably not what we expected to be discussing on Monday, which is a no contest result from the game versus Apprentice. I know it's certainly not ideal, but had to come to that point because of the lightning strikes in the area, and for the safety of the student athletes as well as the fans, a no contest is a result. Can we start with that as far as, sort of what that day was like for you from your standpoint, and ultimately the decision for the no contest?
Okay, so I've been around football as a coach for the past 20 years and had come across some similar situations, but certainly not this one in specific. So I've had rain-shortened games 2 years ago. We had lightning when we were playing Davidson, and had some delays there coming out of the locker room for the season opener. Last year, playing Davidson, in the second half, we actually made an agreement as head coaches to shorten the second half with 12-minute quarters and running clock.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some things you can do at some previous institutions where I was coaching. We had an 81-0 lead in driving rain in the fourth quarter to call the game, and they just called that a final.
Sure.
But for this situation here, we hadn't completed 3 quarters. So without the completion of 3 quarters and in a 1-point ball game, now you have a few options. But of course, I don't see either head coach wanting to forfeit and give the win to the other team, because a whole lot of football had yet to been played. So for us, we're all about the safety of the player. That is number one. So excellent work first by Matt Bummer, our athletic trainer here at Brevard College. So he's the one that gets the updates as far as the lightning and its location. So excellent by him. He alerts the officials step in, and they call it.
Sure.
And then from that point forward, a lot of people had a hand in corralling players and fans. I know you had your work cut out for you up in the booth. We have Miranda Nash and Angie Mascaro, Molly Penland. A lot of people did so much work to secure the area, make sure that everybody had a place to go. We got players into locker rooms, into cool areas, in the weight room, and everybody handling the facilities over there at Brevard High School. Really outstanding and professional job by everyone involved.
And if you can maybe take the audience behind the curtain a little bit, that's a very long delay before the ultimate decision was made to call it, to terminate the game that day. And the players are in the locker room waiting this thing out, and we're talking hours on end. From a coaching perspective, not just yourself but your staff, what kind of things are done there to keep the team ready, engaged, just in case have to head back out there?
Well, I had to draw on history. So back when I was a player at Duke, one season, 1993, every single home game it rained. And we had lightning. So I remember going out for a warm-up and going through all the exercises for pregame, and then all of a sudden here comes the lightning. Well, you're already stretched out. You're already sweaty. Your socks are soaking wet. Your shoes are soaking wet. And, now you have to just come to a complete standstill. Maybe you're back in the locker room in the air conditioning, but soaking wet.
Right.
Maybe you're in a tunnel seeking shelter, and you're standing there for an hour. So you can get extremely stiff during that time. And now, take it to our game. They played 2.5 quarters of football. Okay, so now the body is saying, wait a minute, I feel like I played an entire game. And now you're going to take me over here and sit me here.
Right,
so
it's like a race car going to a halting stop.
Exactly. So we took these guys from playing, run around full speed, and it was not cool outside on Saturday. Okay, so especially anyone that was in the stands would know exactly how warm it was. So now you have players that are completely sweaty, and now they're going to go into a locker room that was humid. We move them out of there, and we take them over into the weight room where they had some air conditioning in there. So, yes, we're getting them water. We're feeding them peanut butter and jelly sandwiches just to keep them up. But the way it was working with the lightning strikes, it's 30 minutes from each strike. So if you get a strike, from that moment you have 30 minutes. But 3 minutes later, here comes another lightning strike, and now it's 30 again. So it kept delaying, and we had to keep the players engaged we just didn't want them just disappearing off into nowhere.
Sure.
So now we have the staff in there. We've already made halftime adjustments, but now there's a few more adjustments that we can make from things that took place during the third quarter. So that's what we were doing, just spreading out with the players, but keeping them involved and keeping them somewhat active, but you're not really moving around as far as staying loose because you don't really know the time. But to have a whole lot of bodies, and I'm talking about 110 guys or so in football uniforms all into one weight room, basically, and to have them in there for that length of time, after a while now, that's going to be difficult because even though we were feeding them along the way, this is a very long day for these players. And then when you think about the stiffness and soreness that's going to set in after being in there all that time, so that's both our team and the apprentice school. Now you're going to come back out, try to take an hour warm-up, and then try to tee it up all over again like you're playing a doubleheader in football. How many times have you seen those? Probably never, right?
Never.
And that's why. So, I mean, just for all the health issues, even if you eliminate the lightning and it turned into the beautiful day that we had on Sunday, still there's such a high risk of injury, there was no sense going through with a football game.
Well, Coach, the bottom line is at 5:57 to play in the third quarter, the game was halted, and the game ultimately called a no contest. And so for fans, what that means is the result doesn't count. It doesn't affect either team's record. The stats don't count. That being said, you, from a coaching standpoint, and as far as the team goes, there was a lot to learn, a lot to experience in those almost 3 quarters of play. And I'd like to review, some of those highlights. It all started, and he's going to be a guest on the show after you, Coach, with a 96-yard kickoff return on the opening kickoff by Jamario Parks. It just totally ignites the fans, the sidelines, puts the Tornadoes up by a touchdown. A touchdown off a kickoff return would have been a school record had these statistics,
That's right.
continue to take effect. But can you talk about that, just how huge that was to kick off the season with a kickoff return for a TD?
All right, well, first I'd like to congratulate Coach Jaron Gavea, who became the special teams coordinator this year. He played at Virginia Tech under Frank Beamer,
Yep.
and they are all about special teams. So we knew he was the right man for the job. So just in preparation and film breakdown, certainly set up the scheme that he wanted to be able to take advantage of the opponent. Now, as far as the return itself and the returner, I couldn't have been more happy for Jamario Parks. He came to us last year. He was really going to be a running back. But because of the transfer and all the paperwork and red tape that's involved, by the time he really got the opportunity to play, we were far enough into the season where he was so far behind on what we were doing offensively that he moved to corner. So he was playing on defense and was really trying to find his way and find a spot for him. But truly, he's a playmaker. He's a guy that should have the ball in his hands. Last game of the year last year against Allen, I brought him over to the offense and gave him a little bit of flavor of what he could have in the future. And, if you recall the Allen game from last year, he did some spectacular things in that game. So this year he was able to be full-time on the offense. He was there in the spring to learn and be all a part of those special teams. And then, of course, starting here in the fall camp. And we just knew that if he got the ball in his hands, he could do something. And there was no way for the opponent to have known that because there was no film on that type of thing. So they said, we're going to kick this ball deep because our kicker has a strong leg. We're going to send it to the 4-yard line, and we're going to cover down. Little did they know we have Jamario Parks back there now. Granted, he got some huge blocks. All right, Brandon Crawford hit someone pretty darn hard on that play. Okay, and Dalen Curtis didn't do too bad of a job either. But there were a lot of people in there blocking in front of him. So, yes, the schematics were great, but that doesn't mean anything if you don't have players that execute. So on that particular play, they executed perfectly. And to see Jamario come to a complete stop at one point about the 40-yard line and then start all over again.
To let the blocking set up.
And then kick it into gear. Oh, what a thrill. And, I mean, what better way to start off. I mean, you may as well have pyrotechnics and fireworks.
Right.
I mean, that's what it was, and it was truly outstanding.
Now, another untraditional touchdown came next, a fumble recovery touchdown by freshman defensive lineman Jerome Bass. This was a situation where a shotgun situation for Apprentice. Snap goes over the quarterback's head, and then a heads-up play by Bass to pick that up and score. How important is that for the defense to come up with a touchdown?
Okay, well, I'm a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, so I'm always going to talk a little bit about baseball and how it relates. Okay, so in baseball, a guy will make a great play in the outfield. And then when he comes up to bat, hits a home run.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, on the previous play, Jerome Bass actually made a huge hit on the quarterback. So the quarterback was just releasing the ball, and he drilled him pretty good in the back. And then the very next play, here comes the snap over the head. Was the quarterback rattled? Was the center rattled? Who knows?
Sure.
But anyway, that ball gets over the head, and if you'd have seen the burst, the acceleration by Bass to get there to make that play, quarterback should have kicked that ball out of the end zone and taken the safety, and we take advantage of the miscue, and that was an all-effort play by Bass.
What a tremendous back-to-back plays by Jerome Bass. And then another special team score. This was a 2-point run back on a botched extra point attempt by Apprentice. Also going to be a guest on the show later tonight. Quentin Jackson picks that up, runs all the way, for two, kind of the untraditional way to score a 2-point conversion. Can you talk about that play? And again, the special teams led by Coach Gavea.
All right, well, first of all, Quentin Jackson, we call him Q. Okay, so not even going by just one name, he just gets a letter.
Right.
So that lets you know how much we think of him as a player and how much power he really has. So he's Q. And the reason he's Q is because he's always steady. We always know what we're going to get from him. So it's so comforting as a coach to look out and say, okay, 25's over there, we're good, we got Q. So whether that's what he does on defense or what's that he does on special teams. So in that particular case, extra point. A lot of people take that play off. I mean, you'll see a lot of interior linemen not rushing, nobody really trying to block off the edge. So for Q, he very easily could have just stood up there on the edge and, hey, just let the guy kick it. But he came hustling like he does on every snap of every play in every game that he's in. And there are certain times where it pays off. And in that particular case, you could see it. He picked that up, and boy, you saw his speed. So he runs track for us as well.
Yep.
And you definitely saw that speed. And, that wide receiver that was trying to run him down isn't too slow now for apprentice school. And couldn't catch him. So that was fun to watch.
Well, so a lot of the fans got to see these sort of highlights on social media and that kind of thing. How about as far as, maybe something that went unnoticed by the, public or, that you were particularly pleased with as far as, some sort of subtlety that was well done by the Tornadoes?
Okay, well, for us, what we haven't experienced yet was the ebbs and flows of a game. Okay, so yeah, they're in small amounts, but this was very grand. So 17 points scored by one team in the first quarter.
Yep.
That was Brevard College. So all of a sudden we're on this emotional high. But it was getting to understand, hey, what do you do with a 17-point lead in the first quarter? All right? Then all of a sudden, we're on our side thinking, hey, the game's over? Are we up? So, my wife always refers to Candyland and not to gloat. We always teach our children not to gloat. And I don't want my players over there gloating, okay? Because next thing you know, you get the candy bar, and now you're all the way back down. You know what I mean? You're so close to the end, and then all of a sudden you draw the hearts, and whoosh, you got to go all the way back to the bottom. But yet,
makes sense.
You were way up top and gloating and saying, look at me, and I'm going to finish first and all that. So that was a new scenario for our players to be in. Okay? Then flip it around. Now all of a sudden 20 points are scored by the opponent. So now what are we going to do? We just went from an emotional high to now an emotional low. And now we're looking saying, how in the heck did we get behind? What has happened? So now you have to go in at halftime and explain all this to the team and let them know that is a football game. That's how things go.
Yep.
And now you get into the third quarter and you see who made the best adjustments at halftime. All right, defensive staff of one group, was it the offensive unit of another, or the special teams group? So there you have all these moving parts and adjustments that need to be made. The unfortunate part was we never got to see how it played out because we weren't able to finish the game. But I think that would have been a thrilling finish one way or the other. But it was really what wasn't seen was the learning experience for our players because of these different scenarios that were playing out, that I can simulate a lot of things for these players in practice. What I cannot simulate is pressure. So I can get right in the kicker's face and tell him, hey, this is for all the marbles, the game's online, we can have everybody yelling at him. but ultimately it's still practice.
Yep.
You know, and a cornerback can be playing man coverage on a receiver. Well, I mean, maybe he'll gamble a little bit more, because what if he gets beat deep? Okay, well, it's practice, so nothing really comes of it. So, you know, you can't simulate that kind of pressure until you get into the game, and you need the experience. And certain times there's certain pressures you want the guys to experience, but if that situation doesn't arise during the game, then they can't experience it. So there was so much learning that took place during that game that it's okay that we have a 0-0 record right now. I mean, the rest of it, Jameril Parks will return another kick for a touchdown.
Sure.
That I can assure you. So Xavier Brown's record from 2 years ago of his 76-yard kickoff return, the only one we have in school history, I got my money on JP.
Yeah, I think it's a safe bet indeed, Coach. Now, to this week, Christopher Newport comes into town, a night game at Brevard Memorial Stadium. Like you said, Tornadoes record 0-0, but this valuable experience from this past weekend. Christopher Newport, a member of the New Jersey Athletic Conference, has a strong history of playing some pretty good football up there, and they come into town and will take on this Tornadoes team. Can you preview that game a bit for the fans?
Okay, well, I want everyone to understand that Christopher Newport started football back in 2001. And their first 2 years in their conference, they were the conference champion. Then they get into a conference named the USA South.
That's correct.
Okay, so they've been in the USA South Conference in the 12 seasons they were there. They were the champion or tied for first 8 out of the 12 years. Worst finish they ever had was third. Okay, so this, for a program that's only been around since 2001, they've had a tremendous amount of success.
Yep.
And that was one head coach for almost all of that time. And now Coach Art Link is now the head coach. For any Gator fans out there, former linebacker at University of Florida in the mid-'90s. So, you know, defensive mentality. But if I could combine a lot of the elements of Averett, Maryville, and Huntington and pick some highlights of those teams and shove them into one area and call them Christopher Newport, then you can kind of get an idea of how they play. On defense, okay, very technically sound. They have the reigning defensive player of the year in the conference as a defensive lineman, and we know how they can wreak havoc. We had some issues with the defensive lineman when we played Ferrum 2 years ago because he was that much better than a lot of the guys on the field. Last year against Greensboro, they had a defensive lineman that did the same thing. So very disruptive, wreaking havoc. They have a defensive back who's All-American, 6 interceptions last year. So whether they're trying to run the ball up front or try to go over the top and throw that ball, very sound. And then offensively, it's a good mix of what they do, trying to keep guys off balance. And what's interesting is that the teams that they play, they have an 0-2 record, but you have to look at who they play. One team is ranked in the top 10 in Division III, and the other team is not too bad of a Division III football team. So the way Christopher Newport approaches their out-of-conference games is to prepare themselves for the playoffs. So they're not playing to try to boost some record and, you know, some ego of a head coach to show you, oh, look at how many wins I have. He wants to prep his team so that he can win his conference and he can go to the playoffs and already have that type of experience. Much like Maryville last year from our conference, 0-3 out of conference, but they play 3 stud teams, so they can go 7-0 in the conference. So that's pretty much the early scouting report on Christopher.
Well, certainly an exciting opponent for the Tornadoes on Saturday night, and it's going to be under the lights at Brevard Memorial Stadium. A bit of a novelty. You know, we haven't had too many of those over our history here at Brevard College football. Can you talk about that and kind of what you anticipate in terms of that electric atmosphere?
Right. So anytime the lights come on, there's an automatic energy that gets increased tremendously. And you can even see it in our practices. There are certain times where weather causes us to practice under the lights on the turf. All of a sudden, there's this zip to the team that I don't see when we're out at the grass and it's 3:45 in the afternoon and the sun's shining. And when those lights come on, it's a whole different deal. And all the players know it, the energy, the vibe, it's all there. So, you know, it's exciting for us to give these players that type of opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and a great opportunity for fans to come on out. 7 p.m. at Brevard Memorial Stadium. A big promotion going on as well. All fans are urged to wear the color white. I believe the team a kind of a strange Saturday, that ultimately results in a no contest. Things out of our control, such as the weather. But I do want to concentrate on what happened in those minutes before the game got called. And we're going to start with the very opening play of the afternoon. Jamil Parks fields the opening kickoff and goes 96 yards for a touchdown. We'll start with you, Jamario, since you were the man who made that happen. Can you talk about that kickoff return and maybe, some of these others who, your teammates who helped make that possible, but also from your vantage point, was there an opening at some point? How did it look?
Well, from my point of view, it was just everybody doing their own assignments, and as long as we got that taken care of, then I could just go out there and do the best that I could.
Very good. And Q, were you on the field? Are you part of that kickoff return team, or were you on the sidelines?
I was on the sidelines.
Okay, so from your vantage point, I'd like to hear from your standpoint what that looked like, and just how special this guy is as a kickoff returner.
Honestly, we've been talking about it all the time. The past week, even said they're going to return the first kick return back. So I kind of knew it was going to be true. So as soon as it happened, I was down there by the end zone with him. Yeah, it wasn't on the field, on the sideline, just partying with him.
Yeah, and I'm sure that just ignited the team as far as, you guys, getting in the right mindset and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Now, a little bit later in the contest, another score by this guy. Q Jackson picks up a botched extra point attempt and returns it all the way the other way for 2 points, kind of the hard way. You don't see that too often in football to begin with. And Q, you got that done. Q, tell me how that play unfolded.
Well, it was very unfortunate, actually. It just happened. I seen the ball, like, okay, I can pick that up. I can go with it, and I did. And I was looking back to see if somebody's going to catch me, but, that's going to be hard to do.
Now, Jamario, you played some running back, last year, and then moved position around a little bit. This year playing wide receiver.
Yes, sir.
And you match up against DBs like this guy every day in practice. Can you talk about Q a little as a DB and, what kind of player he's like, from your eyes as a wide receiver?
Well, yeah, from my eyes, I know his history and how he's an All-American corner and how he was All-Conference last year, and I'm always having to give out 100% against him, or I'm looking dumb in practice when he, shuts me down or he picks it off or I just, don't make the play.
And Q, I'll let you return the favor. You talked about Jamariel as a kickoff returner, but now that he's playing wide receiver, tough matchup for opposing defensive backs.
Yeah, he got some speed on him. I ran track with him as well, so I know I gotta give him a little bit of cushion. So we play safe.
Well, as they call it in radio, that's a perfect segue to where I want to go next, which is track and field. Both of you guys had a lot of success last spring, on that track and field team. Coach Darryl Patrick. What I'd like to hear from you is kind of how track and field's a good fit for you guys as football student athletes, and how maybe it helps keep those competitive juices flowing in the spring, keeps you in shape, that kind of thing. Talk about your track and field life.
Well, we had a lot of success in track and field this year. Well, last year, we went to Connecticut and what was it, the finals?
Yeah,
finals. And our football 1 team, we were close to breaking the school record, but things happened, and we just went from there. And I figured, track and field was just something that could help us stay in shape, and we tried it out. And we just got the best results from it.
Nice. And Q, you had a lot of fun with it?
Yeah. Being as though we had a little smaller team, we know how to work together and actually come as a team together. So being as though we have a bigger team of football now, it's much easier for us to play our part and do our role and actually contribute to our team.
Now, Q, there's a photo from last year that I love looking at, which is you wearing that turnover belt.
Ooh.
Can you talk a little bit about that, the turnover belt, but also just how important it is for you guys as a unit to get those turnovers?
I love that turnover belt. It makes you want to go get it. The goal is something special, And then though that turnover, get that turnover, everybody's hyping you up on the sidelines, and you just come over and get the belt and show off with it a few times.
Jamariel, similar thoughts? Does it get the guys going?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like being on defense last year and seeing their success, that stuff would just help motivate me and hopefully motivate the rest of our team. It was just like, dang, we could get something like that, something similar to if we just work as hard as those guys do in practice and make those kind of plays on the field.
So now the focus is on this opponent that's coming into town this weekend, Christopher Newport. I talked to head coach Bill Kai quite a bit about them. They look like a tough opponent. I'm sure the coaches are starting to prep you guys for what you're going to expect this weekend. What have the coaches told you so far as what you guys got to do this week to get the W?
Well, we haven't heard a lot because the week just started, and but they are mentally preparing us and trying to get us to do the right kind of assignments so we can be in the best position to help win this game.
Yeah, pretty much on defense, everybody do their job. We do their job, we all come together as one, we just do what we do best.
Very good. And there's a big promotion where you guys are going to be wearing the white jerseys, which, look awesome. And they're going to look even better under those lights. And, the bunch at Brevard College are trying to get everybody to wear white T-shirts in the crowd. The first 500 fans get a free T-shirt. I mean, the place is going to be rocking. How important is that for you guys to have the fans nice and loud behind you?
Well, I think that the crowd coming together and everyone just coming together as a team will help bring a lot more energy to us, and we just kind of feed off of that and just go from there.
Yeah, I love home games. I love it. That's all I can say.
Very good. Well, before I let you guys go, Q Jackson, junior defensive back from Columbia, Maryland, all USA South performer from last year, Hammond High School alum. Anybody you want to give a shout out to, maybe back home?
Yes, I would like to give a shout out to my girlfriend, Kibi, that's her nickname, Kibi, and my mom, my aunt, and my cousins, all my cousins, my little brother, and that's pretty much it. My grandmother too. I love her.
Very good. And Jamariel, same opportunity for you, out of Knoxville, Tennessee, Carnes High School. Any friends, family back home you might want to say what's up to?
Yeah, just, my mom, my brothers, and, my support system, and, my lady back home, her name is Tahara. She's pretty sweet with that. And, just the people who want to support me from back home.
Well, folks don't realize just how many people behind the scenes help you guys out, along the way, not only, these days as college student athletes, but growing up, and giving you, the opportunities and the support you needed to become who you are today. Well, guys, best of luck this weekend. Big week, big game this weekend against Christopher Newport. We wish you guys the best, and great job tonight on Tornado Talk.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right, that was Q Jackson and Jamariel Parks, two of those football student athletes from the Brevard College Tornadoes. Both provided some highlight reel type action this past weekend, and what ended up to be a no contest against Apprentice after numerous lightning warnings and delay. But the Tornadoes will be back in action this Saturday versus Christopher Newport, a huge game, 7 p.m. Hope fans can come on out. First 500 fans receive a white Brevard College Tornadoes t-shirt, and it is a beautiful piece of merchandise. Check out Brevard College Tornadoes social media, and you can take a look, a little sneak peek at that fan promotion. Want to thank all of our guests tonight. We had cycling student athletes Nicole Rusden and Jason Marquardt talking after a big weekend for the Tornadoes cycling program in Cleveland, Georgia. Multiple podiums, multiple first place finishes for the Tornadoes. We also had women's soccer student athletes Rebecca Rojas and Erica Zuffrey. The Tornadoes women's soccer team gearing up for a big match tomorrow, 7 p.m. at Ives Lamel Family Field. That is also Western North Carolina alumni meetup night, and hope alumni in the area can come on out for that celebration. Head football coach Bill Kyatt recapped this past weekend, the no contest versus Apprentice, and gave us a great preview of what's coming this coming Saturday versus Christopher Newport. And then we also talked to Q Jackson and Jamariel Parks. Want to thank all who made tonight's show possible, and our sponsors: Arby's, Jets Pizza, Holiday Inn Express, Hampton Inn, Ingalls, Mission Sports Medicine, Comporium, Pepsi, and the home of Tornado Talk, Dugan's Pub. Go to www.bctornadoes.com for all your news, scores, stats, schedules, and information. And be sure to follow the Tornadoes on social media at BC Tornadoes on Twitter and Instagram. Be sure to like the Brevard College Tornadoes Athletics Facebook page, and follow the Tornadoes on YouTube and SoundCloud at Brevard College Tornadoes Athletics. Thanks again for joining tonight's edition of Tornado Talk. We'll see you next Monday night right here at Dugan's Pub, 7 p.m. every Monday. Tornado Talk, the home of Brevard College Tornadoes Athletics. Go Tornadoes!